Welcome back. Our next guest is a man who carries the weight of history and the light of ancient wisdom in every story he tells. He's a proud Kamilaroi man and a deeply respected elder whose influence resonates far beyond the hills of the New England Northwest. For years, he has dedicated his life to ensuring that the deep cultural footprint of his people is seen, heard, and understood by all who walk this land. As the founder of Len Waters Cultural Tours, he has become one of our region's most vital educators. He is a master storyteller who connects the stars above to the earth beneath our feet, sharing the profound beauty of Gamilaraay astronomy and the living history of the landscape. A former Tamworth Citizen of the Year, he is a vital leader in reconciliation, serving as a guiding voice for local government, schools, and community organisations. He doesn't just share knowledge, he fosters the spirit of Yinjamara, respect, and going slowly. He is a teacher, a protector of country, and a cornerstone of the community. Please welcome a true custodian of culture and a pillar of the Tamworth region, Uncle Len Waters.
Oh, thank you. Big words.
How you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Good, thank you. Yeah, not bad.
Thank you for joining me here today and being open to sharing a little bit of the story that is this cultural man, Len Waters. In terms of culture and the arts, how do they come together?
Well, they're one of the same.
Mm.
It's like a lot of things in culture. It's all one. It's just different elements of how you look at one. You look at one person, but a lot of elements make up one man. So I look at the both of them as something that's together and as one, and we can draw on looking at those two things, but getting different things from them, so that the culture and the arts, and both those things, they both possess the magic that inspires people, and I think they're very important elements to our culture because the arts and culture are at one with each other, and I think as people we've got to be the same way. So I believe that they're integral, that they're important, and that they can't be sort of split into sort of one here or one there because they possess the same things. Art takes a lot of forms. There's art in talking, there's art in painting, there's art in music, playing music, writing music, singing music, all these sorts of things. And culture is the very fabric that holds all those things together, because with culture you've got the I suppose country and language and materials to go with that. So whether you're sort of talking about one thing or the other, it's pretty prevalent that culture is about a whole host of different things, and we can't sort of really split culture into a number of things either, because I believe it's sort of it's holistic in its way and in its meaning, and the way it sort of brings us all together, because it's sort of it's always moving. But you can look at culture as being a language, but the language can't do anything without telling or talking or telling a story. It could be about making artifacts. You can make one of the bottles in there. You can make these glue in there. But the thing is, where do they come from? What purpose do they give us? And what do we do with them? Is there so there's a whole range of things that it just doesn't appear by itself. Because what has to happen with that is somebody has got to have the knowledge to go and make one of these things, or one of these things here. But where do you start? What do you look for? What's in the timber that you need, and how do you shape it? All these craft things that you need to know. But what do you need to go and get these things? You need something else. So you need the stone, the sharp stones, the axe, the wedges, all that sort of stuff to actually harvest this stuff. So where do you get that stuff from? So that takes you back down another storyline, which then talks about country and the different rocks that country possesses, and how do we know which rocks are rock? And how do we know how to use those things? So then if you go back further than that, then you sort of start to talk about, well, who inspired the first thing? But past those things, you then sort of say, well, we've gone and I've got all this stuff. Now what do we do with it? So it's one of those things, you can use them like they're intended to be used back in the traditional times. Or you can just have one of the ornaments so that people can just enjoy the sheer beauty of things. And once you've done all that, then it becomes part of who you are and of our culture. And even in today's world, we can still go and do these things. So the things that they were doing thousands of years ago, we're still doing today. And so on and so forth. So when we sort of look at the different types of art in relation to sort of creating sort of things of art, we look at the rich ochres that we sort of harvest from the ground, from nature, the different colours, the textures, and the way it flows when you use it, whether you use it on skin, or whether you use it on bark, or whether you use it on other types of canvases. So just the different applications that we have. And how do we know that with ochre, how do we know how to put it on the rock so that it stays there, rather than how we put it on our skin and it washes off? Put on rock, it needs to be an oil paint, so we need to put something with it to make it an oily paint that sticks to the rock. And some of those things can be there for hundreds of years. And then we sort of go to music, I suppose. And long before there was instruments, it was a simple gesture of using the hand to either clap hands together or to clap one hand on your leg or so forth. And even the sticks, hitting the sticks together to make that clicking sound. And not so much in this region, but you'd see it now is the yiddy or yidaki and didge. So through those forms of being able to do things, we're able then to sort of reconnect with those original sounds of country and culture. But even though now we've put new instruments into the play, like guitars, accordions, a whole host of other instruments that people use in the latest bands, and we're still able to create culture through new music, not only old music. And singing was an old part. What have you done by the old women or the old men? The singing was always one of those things that I, as a kid anyway, used to sort of love hearing. I used to just be mesmerised by the sound. And that doesn't need to be an audience or anything else like that. They could be doing stuff on their own, but just stopping and listen. So it's to me it's not it's not a short answer to your question.
Thank you. So I guess everyone does have a story, and a big part of culture is the understanding that not just everyone, but everything has a story. And that speaks to how everything is connected. I know that you're doing cultural tours Can you speak a little bit about those?
Yeah, cultural tours, I suppose. Yeah, that sort of started up after I sort of left work, it sort of had people all the time sort of say, we want to go and see something, can you take us out? So I'd take them out on the country and share some stuff. And then that became more and more and more, and I said, well, I might as well start up a business and, do my tours, but always with a bit of difference and stuff. But, basically it's to, around Tamworth here, not too many people know where these significant sites are. There's still some here that only a handful of people know where they are. And, I suppose the magic is you can take people out to see something that's been in existence as far back as we can go through modern technology to 700 years, the rock art. But understanding what that rock art's all about is important, why it's there, why it is in that particular place. So, and the different types of, I always put things down as, sticks and stones. It's always about, rock and wood and, showing people where the stone X quarry is.
Mm.
And how old people used to harvest the stone from up there to make all different types of weapons and tools. But also how they used to sort of utilize the bark and timbers from particular trees to make particular objects. Again, whether they be sort of tools or weapons. So, people get interested in that because what they're getting is an explanation and not just a visual. And what comes in between that is the silence, I suppose, that people pick up this real spiritual sort of connection with the voice and with what's going on around them, whether it be with the sight or whether it be with the artifacts. Everything now is being drawn together through a voice, and the silence from people is all about just taking all this in. And to them, it's more than just a man talking. To them, in their own words, not my words, in their words, it's something that's mesmerizing. They get right into it, and it's like a lot of people say, I can listen to you all day.
Mm.
And I think, well, I don't know what that's about, but I suppose it's one of those things where we sort of look at, well, it's the magic that happens when we sort of talking about culture, especially from from an ancient perspective, not sort of modern day thing. And they had a good fortune, I suppose, in a lot of ways of growing up in an impoverished world, but it was rich in other things like connections to old people and connection to old people's voices and how they held themselves, how they conducted themselves, and how they passed on things to you. It's truly an amazing experience to take all that in, but you can spend hours sort of talking about that ways of communication. But I think what a lot of people take away with it is, I'm seeing all these artifacts, I've got an explanation of what they're all about. Plus also, they've got this deep feeling of spirituality as well, and some people even describe it as being life-changing. I think that's important because the whole thing about this is to not so much to make money, but to make people. And for every person that goes away with a different mindset about Aboriginal people and Aboriginal culture, that's a really important thing, because it's up to them people then to educate their own people. Because you're going to have an Aboriginal person telling another person about things, but it's not as powerful as having one of their own kind telling them about Aboriginal culture,
Mm.
because then it validates especially from people that come on these tours. They're all very intelligent people, wealthy people. But so anyway, the showing around the region here is pretty important because there's a lot of a lot of different sites. Whether they be sort of paintings or rock or timber, they all have representation to sort of how old people going back sort of since tribal times. So I think that's an important aspect of the tours. I think that's why I really do it. And what a lot of people do is they come along and I always ask them, why are you here? Oh, we just thought we'd come and see you. I said, no. I said, why are you here? Ask yourself. And then it takes on a different meaning. Why are you here? This time and in this presence right now. And in your own songs. So, and then that sort of has led me to music and storytelling and gathering people together. And met some wonderful sort of people over a long period of time. But I always find that people find you, you don't want to find them. It's like anything in life. People say, oh, you weren't there. I said, I'm only where I'm supposed to be. If I'm supposed to be somewhere, I'm there. If I'm not supposed to be somewhere, I'm not there. And that's leading back to a lot of things, I think, in relation to, have you ever been to a place where you're not supposed to be, or you're forbidden place? I said, no. I said, I wouldn't be there because if I'm not supposed to be there, I wouldn't be led to that place. But if I'm supposed to be there, I'll find that place. But I'll bring other people with me. So that's all about the tours and stuff like that. It's not about me sort of getting out there and banging the drum. It's about people searching for something in their life that leads you to somebody else that hopefully gives them some inspiration or answers to what it is in their world that they're wanting to learn.
One of the things I remember about culture was when I was told that if I truly believed, it would show, it would come to me. And when I ask about culture and we talk how in a way it's all about story and the understanding of story and how it's in some way it's all we're all connected. The cultural tours I put one, it enables people to come and connect to the story and have a more deeper understanding of our Aboriginal peoples and our laws. But what I'm also hearing is that it also is leading into the cultural songs. And I know through working with you that now also opening up these stories to people through the cultural spectacular. There's a few ideas that you're having there, but already there's been 2 big shows that you've put on. Are you able to share a little bit about those?
Yeah, well, the first one, I suppose, I see people around now are obviously very talented in what they do, and but I find too that a lot of people have this talent but nowhere to show it. And I suppose, the first one was a little bit about life and about country in a lot of ways. So I wanted to sort of give people a bit of an idea through story of how we can integrate not only traditional music but contemporary music and the fine musicians and dancers that we have around, it's unbelievable. And I thought, well, I'd really like to showcase these people here. And so when I read it, I read the show and thought about the stories I was going to tell, and sort of the songs that I wanted sort of sing throughout the performance. But I think the performers were already there. I didn't have to search too far. But they were sort of stories about Dreamtime stories, but also there were stories about my own personal life. Being an old mission kid. And so the thing was for me was to bring a lot of that sort of back to life. And and certainly in that, we sort of talk about Dreamtime stories, and especially of Booba Lagoon, and having young Coralia go away and write a song about that. And because I told her the story about Booba Lagoon and Gadigal, but she said, "Do you want me to write a song about the story?" And I said, "No." I said, "I want to talk to you." I talked to her about Gadigal and how he's always been around, how for a long time, and but I always wondered who he was. I didn't know who he was, but he kept on sort of coming to me in one form or another, and I wanted to know what he wanted. Now, what do you want? What do you want me to do? Who are you? And really, feels in a way like it's been 1,000 years. I just sort of think, well, but so anyway, just sort of said, well, that's a bit about this creature. I said he was a menace, to everybody that wanted to use the lagoon. He had no sense of value about other people, their feelings, or their need to be able to sort of do particular things like ceremony and stuff like that. He was all about himself. But he come to grief though later on in the story, because the story it's actually mammoth, and but later on he did come to grief when he took on the creator, and the creator speared him and slit his guts, to retrieve his wives, and then tossed his carcass into a place called Gomeroi Springs, but back in the old days it was called Gomeroi Springs. And but there's talk of him making his way back through the Bilambiyal Girl there. But because he had rainbow eyes, he pulled up at a place called Marilla there. These days I think a lot of it sort of refers to the being Lightning Ridge, where his half his guts was hanging out there. Tears were flowing out his rainbow eyes and flowed into the ground before he eventually went back to Bilbra, where he now sleeps forever. But we dig up his tears now and his remains, and all in the form of opals. But somebody said the other day that I went out to Angledore. It's a little place out of the middle of nowhere there. And I said, I did to see the Angledore waterhole. And I said, no, not really. Because they went out there just a little bit bit of a cultural sort of look around and what have you. I said, you went all that way and you didn't see that place. What's the significance there? I said, well, Marin Lake's there. I said, that's where the creator and this creature were fighting backwards and forwards, and they cleared up all the earth out of this a small river and pushed it all back. And when that filled up with water now, it's known as Marin Lake. But the tail of the serpent actually went into the ground and made a big hole. And when that fills up full of water, now it's called Angledore Waterhole. And but to muck around with that story, you're talking a long, long time, because there's so many elements of it, and that's what I mean. Every time years go past, and there's a new element that goes with that story, you say, I didn't know that before. but I know where it fits in like a big jigsaw. But anyway, to get back to your question, I got Corellia to write a song about my feelings about this creature. And this creature has had an impact on me for a long time. So she went away and wrote the song called Gomeroi. And I never heard anything so magical all my life.
Mm.
Yeah, the way she sings it, and the way she puts the music to it. And every time I hear it, it never fades. If anything, it gets better and better and better. So that was our first show, and of course, I still remember you in that first show. And when I asked you to do a song, because I was now talking about my life on the mission during the show, but I wanted to make some representation to the stolen generations. And the first thing that come to mind was took the children away. And prior last year, I was in contact with them to sort of see if that was somebody you might have been interested in. But I think at the time there was a lot of things going on. There was overseas trips and stuff like that. But anyway, I thought, nah. I said, well, keep on going. We'll use our own people. That's why I rang you up, and if you know that song, you sent me a demo with with the guitar, and I rang you back and said, well, can you get rid of the guitar? And I think they're astounded by what am I going to do without the guitar, just without any other musicians. This man, he must be crazy. I said, you got music in your voice. You don't need other music. And just the reaction to that crowd over the time we did that show was phenomenal. Just everybody just went back in their seats, because the music in your voice was so strong. And the story was so powerful. And the fact that I was talking about our families, how we've been involved with the stolen generations. But the biggest inspiration for that song wasn't just about highlighting the stolen generations or Archie's soul. It was about a conversation that I had with my mother because her sister was taken away, and it was 36 years between contact. And the father had died before she was found, but her mother was still alive, so she actually met her before she died. But yeah, she kept in contact, up until the time she died. But 36 years, But that wasn't the thing. She told me one day. She said, Lena, she said, that old girl there. She's talking about a younger sister, but that old girl there. She said, oh, because we caught up and we were talking, that sort of thing. She said, I didn't know where we were going. People come out and got her. And initially she was going to the dentist or something. But as they went along, the day just went further and further and further. And anyway, she was asking about sort of after she left, she said, well, we didn't know where we were going. We were on the train, and she said all the people at the railway station were all waving goodbye. And she said, I was waving back to them, saying goodbye. She said, I didn't know who any of those people were. And but just the way my mother sort of told me that story was very emotional. Sort of, if you can put yourself into this young girl sort of waving goodbye to all these people at the railway station there that she didn't even know, not knowing, where she was going or for how long she was going for, and 36 years later. And so the only person I thought could do that song and those feelings and that story justice was yourself. But we got sort of other people throwing in challenges along the way to sort of say, well, you're not singing just any old songs anymore. You're singing songs that I've selected for you, and what you've got to do is make them your own. So really, it's a case of making the songs that I want sung with my stories, but having Aboriginal artists create their own unique version of those songs, so that we've got traditional songs, or but also we've got covers of songs, but it's always I get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing what they come back with. And another one there was sort of Somewhere Over the Rainbow and What a Beautiful World, and sort of there's a lot of knocking on heaven's doors, and all these Bad Moon Rising, and they're all coming from the stories, but the crowd resonates with a lot of the songs. They even resonate with the original songs, which are written by and composed by the artists themselves, and I suppose that's what I like. And you got something like about 9-piece band. That's people say that's a lot of people. I said, yeah, but you get a good sound. But one of loud. But then you got other people outside of that, which could be dancers or other people sort of assisting with other stuff that's got to do with the show on stage, and it becomes a very big production. And but looking back on that, I think it was really good. And the second installment of that series was the Len Waters Culture Spectacular Stars. Specifically talking about the stories of the stars and getting the songs to resonate with those stories. And and the third one, well, the fourth one, the third one will probably be next, and it will have a lot of different things. But I think what we haven't done to a degree was capture those shows to share with everybody. So you turn on TV and there it is, and you can watch it. But because at the moment it's only living in our hearts and in our memories, and the photographs. And the places we've been to Sydney, to the Yarman Festival, been to Newcastle at the Narama Festival, and Singleton, Musselburgh, Tenterfield, Gamilaraay, and Tamworth.
It's beautiful. And in the work that you're doing, I thank you for getting those stories out. And, I really do hope that one day these stories get to go to bigger audiences. And if your audiences, when you're there watching these shows, reflecting on why you were there, I really do appreciate our relationship and from the stories that you've shared with me. And I also am grateful for how you've been a part in the way that I am sharing story. For those who don't know, I've been writing songs with our language in it. And in terms of translating those songs, you've been helping me with that. Can we talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah. The songs can't be too complicated because there are a lot of words there that we don't use. And what we're going to do is be careful about not trying to be sort of too much textbook stuff about it, but always trying to sort of get the notion of what you're trying to say in your song. And I did this with a few people here in town. Crowley and Buddy being two other people, but in relation to yourself, it was a case of we spent time, and I think that is a good thing rather than just handing something over and say, there you go. But so you get to know who I am, and I get to know who you are, and we get this commonality between culture and the very essence of language. And language is one of those things that, in today's world, we get too caught up. Who's right and who's wrong. The old people never ever worried about who's right and who's wrong. Because a word's only a word. It don't matter as long as you know what I'm talking about. And, we, all the old talk and stuff that used to be around in the old days there, we know how to say something properly if we want to. But we say that we want to say it. Whether we, it's a bit like Wheelamaringle or Woolamaringle. Whether it be Wirraman or Wurraman. And all these other different types of styles of talk that were around. And I think for me, it's looking at more finding the feeling than finding the word.
Yeah. I don't know if I shared with you. If not, I should have. That one of those songs was translated for me. I took over to Canada, and we won the international choir competition. One of those songs. So, there's something it speaks to. Definitely, there's something about the feel of it as well.
Yeah, no, I get that same sort of feeling, and making the song to be heard. I think that that was a real part of any type of thing when you're trying to put words into music, is sort of say, well, it's not just about finding a word that rhymes with the dictionary, but a word that explains the feeling. And I think they're pretty important.
I'm truly grateful for our connection. Thank you for coming in today. I did want to ask that one question for you.
Yep.
That's the single most important piece of advice that you'd like to pass on or give to the next generation.
Well, the next generation, is an interesting one, because the world is traveling at a great pace. But we're not keeping up with that pace. We're doing all this stuff very fast, but we're not understanding why we're doing it. And back in the old days, in our traditional times, there was no hurry for anything. But it was about building maturity, but also building that connection, with our culture, with our people, and with our feelings, and with everything around us. I'll tell you something. Years ago, when I was a kid, I used to work on the tobacco farms out here. And I was working with all my cousins and that sort of stuff. But sometimes during picking tobacco, there was a real prestige in who was the fastest. So, a couple of faster blokes, they'd all go, and you got to pick the bottom of this plant, and the plant's probably about 5-6 foot high, and the leaves are pretty broad, and they all go under the arm as you go along. And then you got to take them and then put them down in this hessian bag, which got to be rolled up at the end of the day and transported back to the barn. But where I'm going with this is that, the kinship that we all had, because we're all black fellas. We all come from our mission, that sort of stuff. But it was that thing of, okay, let's see who's the fastest. So, up the end of the drill, and the drills are long. They could be anything up to 200 meters long. That's a long time to be bending over and picking. But bloke get to the end and say, I'm the quickest, I'm the best. And everybody would have a laugh about it, But you know what them fellas did?
I missed.
Nah. They come back along. They was picking on the ones that were slow. The ones that were a long way back, they would come back and help them fellas along. So it was a bit of a game, a bit of a competition to get to the other end and see who was fastest. But after a short celebration, come on in, we'll go back and help these fellas. And they'd come back. I think, that's that sort of stuff you don't see anymore. And the young people come along, it's the thing of let maturity do its work. It's got a very specific purpose.
Got it.
Don't be trying to be this thing here in 5 minutes, like a microwave. What you got to do, go along, because everything's intended to come at a stage in life. You can't take this thing from up here and bring back down there when you're a kid, because that's not right. What you got to do is earn that along the way. And as you get towards the end, this then has greater meaning because you've done all these things here. Why I'm saying this about being together is because as a people, in all our history, we were never alone. Never alone. We lived as one people. And but now we can't have the haves and the have-nots in our own culture. Because even though that fellow over there might be falling over drunk and that don't mean I have to ignore him or to dodge him. I go over and, "Are you right, bro?" Well, I've done that all my life, like the down and outers. And there's some kids off me here and then. They just like to be acknowledged. And because they're honest, they're truthful, because they're at the bottom. They're nowhere else. But so with young people, it's all about, and you say respect all you like, sort of thing, but it's about having that compassion for being kind, and and being an advocate for peace, but never ever forget your ancestry and where you come from, because all the money in the world, and you can pretend that you're this in the Aboriginal world, but that mean nothing unless down here that still means something to you, because these people they're pretty precious, and you just sort of think, like the ones in our community I feel much for are the ones that black as the ash is paid, no aspirations, nothing coming on the horizon, but but always acknowledging, and that's what he's saying to them, like they have a place in who you are. So that's the biggest thing I have to say. And I just think that if people just slow down, and think about the things that are important. And the biggest thing I hate lately is social media. It has its place, but its place shouldn't be to turn us against ourselves.
I appreciate those words of wisdom and those messages. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Len Waters.
Gamilaraay, walk with God. Thank you.
Cool.